Hello honey bunches, welcome to the last video in this series for the time being. We're closing the first chapter of my learning journey with everything I know about vegan and gluten-free buns. Think sweet buns. I sort of jumped the gun and did garlic knots before. Maybe it was their proper place, but that's fine, they can stay in the savoury bread video, and today is all about think cinnamon buns, cardamom buns, chocolate babka. However, the only recipe I will be sharing is cinnamon buns, because I feel like I'm still in a bit of a pickle with this one, but the cinnamon buns do taste like out of this world good, and if you're just making them for yourself at home, I think you'd be very satisfied. It's more just, oh what the heck, we'll jump right into it. They don't quite look as epic and spirally and layerful as like your Cinnabon American plump situation, and then if you go for a braided bun like a cardamom bun or chocolate babka, the dough is great. The dough is so enjoyable to handle. You can create any sort of intricate pattern with it. The issue is that you cook it and then it's only sort of okay to eat before it dries out and becomes rock hard and like dangerous to consume with your jaw after like 10 minutes. Because the dough has a lot of rice and starches in it, it's very malleable, very braidable. However, drawback with that is that if you get too thinner layers, it becomes too crisp, because if you think of rice, it dries out quite fast and can get a little crispy. So we're fine on cinnamon buns because those layers are thicker and it holds in more steam because those layers are thicker, but I'm still yet to figure out how to get sponginess in a dough that is still elastic. Gluten-free vegan buns are really fun because they're really quick to cook and very straightforward. You just bang them in the oven. There's no like little steaming pot you might want to put to create extra moisture in the oven, although maybe that would help. I haven't tried that. I was playing around predominantly with different flour blends, see what works best, and also figuring out whether the presence of psyllium husk in dough, which definitely adds moisture, adds like a sourdoughy lovely bubble effect, is like crucial, and how elastic you can make a dough with psyllium husk in it, because it creates sort of little, if you think of psyllium husk, it's a husk, it's a thing that doesn't dissolve, and then it expands like a chia seed and remains sort of plump full of moisture in your dough, and those little water balloons suspended throughout the starchy doughy thing, it doesn't quite all amalgamate. So it works fine in cinnamon buns because those are thick layers, but when you're rolling really thin you have cracking issues. The dough can be quite moist because you're constantly hitting those little water balloon psyllium husks. You also have issues with it rising because the yeast is not like contacting everything. It's not a super homogeneous mixture. So while I loved Aran Goyaga's method, it's more wholemeally, it's more earthy, and I'm not a huge sweet tooth, so when you've got a cream cheese vanilla frosting and you know those caramelly cinnamony layers, it's actually quite nice to have a very wholemeal dough. But yeah, it wasn't super pliable, and also when you could cook them buttered up against each other, but they didn't quite have much structure and looked really sad and very liquidous, like a blobfish. When you cook them singularly. Again, might not be a factor for you, but I'm thinking of one day selling vegan gluten-free cinnamon rolls and they have to hold up at least one day without going rock hard and visually looking good, and also kind of given that Cinnabon-y experience. So thankfully cinnamon buns are having a moment, because I think otherwise we would not have the recipe from the Broma bakery, who are very huge on Instagram, known for their like marbled service mixed with sunlight. They have so many great resources, especially for walking through what different little subtle changes, what that impact has in like cookies or brownies, so you can learn a lot from them. But yeah, they have a recipe for vegan and gluten-free cinnamon rolls, which is the recipe I'm like continually trying variations of. I think it's sort of as good as it gets. But beyond showing you the version I will make today, a mixture of the Bob's 1-to-1 baking flour blend copycat recipe, and also trying Australian mix, which is well and good, which I quite like for cakes. Other experiments I will be trying in future is adding some almond meal, because that is obviously quite oily, to add moisture. Maybe adding a flour like coconut flour, because that is quite absorbent and would hold a bit of moisture. I'll continue to experiment and see the thinness of spiral you can get away with, that the thing will still rise and puff up to a respectable size. And who knows, maybe adding a starch like grated potato might actually help as well. So there are things to try and hopefully get to a dough that is the perfect, amalgamation of all those things and can be transferred to chocolate babka and cardamom buns and other sweet bun-like sensations. I did make a terrific chocolate babka using this Broma bakery cinnamon bun dough. However, yeah, it just it was wonderful, the one I had fresh out of the oven, and it was fine if you reheated it, but even then it just got quite rock hard by the time it cooked all the way through, and they tasted terrific in those 5 minutes, but yeah, it feels a bit like a dream from a lost time because I can't quite remember because they were eaten so quickly, which they had to be enjoyed. So there's far more explaining in just the doing of this, so I hope you get something out of watching me make terrific vegan gluten-free cinnamon buns. Hey honey bunches, I'm a little bit self-conscious filming this one because I realise I don't look particularly outstanding, but I guess you'll just have to believe me in that the basics, the crux of these is really decent, and it's just really aesthetics that need tidying up. So I was trying 2 flours in this one, Well and Good on the left and Bob's on the right. You let the yeast do its thing, then gradually mix in the flour and bring it into a dough. You can do this in a stand mixer or by hand. Since I had 2, I thought I'd give them equal treatment and just do it with a spoon and hand kneading. Yeah, this was interesting. The Bob's 1-to-1, which I guess has more rice flour in it, was much wetter to knead, and I ended up adding a lot more flour in the kneading process, which next time I will try and not add so much and keep it wetter with the help of a spray bottle. Yeah, to prevent cracking, I've heard that helps. And the Well and Good on the left there, as you can see, it's kind of like plasticine. Like, it was a lot firmer. I thought, oh no, it's going to turn into a rock. It didn't, but yeah, it wasn't as moist and elastic as the Bob's Red Mill. This is me making the frosting. Of course, you can make this in so many different ways. I whisked together vegan butter and cream cheese and some vanilla, and then added icing sugar. I wouldn't add any non-dairy milk as I did for this one. I would make it thicker because I kind of like the icing to sit on top, like a little frosty beard. But you know, it still tastes amazing. But it did sort of run all the way through, which is fine. So you do a double rise on these, and so that was them puffing up modestly. Then I turned them out and re-kneaded them a bit because they did dry out on the outside, and in order to prevent cracking in the rolling process and get a smooth rectangle, then yeah, it definitely helped to re-knead them a bit. Then I just use a rolling pin and my hands to sort of shape it into a rectangle of sorts, spread it with vegan butter and a cinnamon sugar mix. I would put the cracklier side on the inside, and yeah, I would definitely use the spray bottle of water to spray the dough so it sticks together better. I don't think the flour coated insides while they're being rolled up help these guys stay in a nice tight snail escargot situation. So that's them after the extra hour. As you can see, it's modest puff, and yeah, they do unroll a bit in the oven. Next time I would give them more spiral. I might try a different shape, like lower and yeah, more spirals, because to me they just look a bit C+. Like, they taste great, and you have to believe me that they do taste good, but yeah, aesthetic wise they just leave a bit to be desired. So this is the Well and Good flour, which is used for cakes and cookies and stuff. As you can see, it looks a bit like a biscuit. I assure you it is doughy, but yeah, it was a bit tougher and more biscuity, I suppose, than Bob's, which was much softer. Didn't look as good. I would use a white sugar instead of panela next time, just because that really does colour the dough and give it a caramel twang. And play around with keeping the dough moister in the rolling and kneading process, and spray water on them before I get them in the oven, so hopefully they don't crack as much, and giving them more spirals. But yeah, lots to be explored there. I hope you learnt a thing or two from me showing you what I've learnt so far, and I'm sure even more delicious cinnamon rolls will come soon enough. Thank you so much for watching, honey bunches. Bye.